All right, we're live. Welcome to I'm Not a Film Producer and I Have No Time. We're live on YouTube right now. We're broadcasting live. I'm going to start with the PowerPoint, and if you have a device that you can use, you can always use my QR code to take you to my site. Otherwise, this is the YouTube link that you can go to if you want to find me. I'm also going to share this with Alan. He's the gentleman that invited me here today. My name is Tom Tsiriopoulos. I am a professor from Centennial Progress, right? And I teach software engineering, usually both programming languages as well as game development, right? So our classes are very interactive. Most of our students don't read, right? Like everyone else, they don't read. They like to watch videos, and we want to talk about this idea of this video narrative, that when we kind of talk to our students, we're broadcasting what we're doing, and they can always go back and look at it later. So I've got about 1,300 videos on YouTube right now. They're really short, some of them are an hour in length each. And usually they kind of mirror all the time I spend in class. So every time I'm in class, I'm producing a video or two, sometimes three, depending on the type of class I'm doing. Some classes, vary in length between 1.5 hours to 4 hours in length, depending on how it goes. So I might have several videos for one class. So what did I do this all? Why am I doing this? How come? What inspired me to do this insanity? Back in 2011, I was teaching, and in software engineering, you have this thing where you as a student, you're looking at me code, and you're doing something like this. Now you can't see this on the video, but literally I'd be looking kind of down on my computer, and then I'm looking up over at the professor. That's the student, right? And they're doing this over and over again. And wait a minute, the professor's moved on, and they can't catch up. Or they've done something and they can't stop. They say, Professor, can you go back? And sometimes I can, but there's got to be times where I have to move forward. I can't go back, right? And even if they're in class, they may have not just captured everything, right? So I wanted to find a way to kind of enhance their experience and provide additional content for them outside of the textbook. Because let's face it, the textbook for computers and some technologies, they're out of date, right? Even if they were produced 6 months ago, there's new stuff that just came in. You got to talk to it. And they can't always refer to the textbook for all their stuff. So you provide, that's the value you provide as a professor. You come in and you bring your industry experience, and you talk to the students, and you kind of share with them your stories. You talk to them about things that work well, the things that don't work well. Maybe you disagree with the textbook. You want to talk about that stuff as well. You maybe say, this might not work exactly like it says here in the textbook. So the stuff that you say is the stuff that I want to record. But this is not an excuse for students saying, well, I'm not going to attend Tom's class because I can watch the video, right? That's not the reason why I'm doing this. This is additional content. And this is how I sell it to them, okay? I always have interactive exercises every week. I try anyway. Something that's worth a mark, right? So if they don't come into class, then either they lose a bonus mark or they get a kind of a hit on their final grade, right? And it can be challenging at times for me as to mark, but usually it's like do they do it or not? It's a yes or no. It's a 0 or 1, kind of thing for them to come in. And it's a tactic, not because I want to penalize anyone. That's why a lot of times I make it a bonus, right? So, for example, if they collect enough bonus marks, they might get 5 or 10% bonus at the end of semester. And for a lot of these people, the people honestly who get the bonus are the people who don't need the bonus, right? But for some students who attend class, they have the ability to do the exercise. And it's usually something to do with the class that I did previous or something that I want them to do in class that day. All right, so back in 2011, it was a weird time. We didn't have a lot of technology that we have today. The internet was really, really slow. And what I had to do was use some kind of tools like QuickTime or OBS for open broadcasting or Camtasia or ScreenFlow. I tried to find some kind of tools to record my screen, right? And it wasn't really great quality. The quality would suffer a lot. Sometimes my screen was too big. Sometimes it was too small. I didn't have it quite right back then. And what YouTube did is they provided the ability for us to upload videos, but there was a multi-stage process here, right? We'd have to transcode stuff. So take the video. So you're recording your screen, transcode it. This is all the work I had to do, right? And then upload it later. And usually if I record for every hour, it's like a gig worth of data that I got to push up to the cloud, right? And that can take something like, I don't know, an hour or 2 hours. If I'm doing it at home, even if I'm doing it here physically, depending on the internet speed, it might take me an hour something like that. That's a lot of time outside of my prep time, my marketing time, and my delivery, right? There's just no time for this, right? So I did it anyway. I was doing it back then because I found that there was a value to doing it. Great thing is that later on, what YouTube did is they came up with this idea of live streaming on YouTube. At first, I looked at it and I said, I'm not sure if I want to do that. I'm not sure if I want to broadcast myself live. And I'm not sure if I want to have all my videos on YouTube unprotected. There was this thing about me being in stealth mode, right? I want to hide my videos. I want to make them private. I don't do that anymore. Everything is open, right? And people might say, well, if anyone can look at them, and what about people in Mumbai? Can they look at your videos? Can they do your classes? Sure, they can. But there's not a lot of them. Most of them are the students that are in my class, right? Now, the one thing is we're going to talk about advantage and disadvantage here is you have to watch what you say. You're live on YouTube. That means if you're very colorful, some of us are very colorful when we speak in class. I know I certainly am, right? You've got to really be careful, right? If you're really, really colorful, you know it's going to be recorded on YouTube.
Colorful is a good word.
Well,
there's a lot of other words we can use.
Sure.
Right?
So if you're really colorful, then you really got to be careful what you do. But that kind of tightens you up a little bit. It kind of makes you think about, okay, I'm broadcasting live. This is being broadcast live right now. Anyone in the world can see this video if they really want to, if they know that it exists. Let's talk about these 11 steps to getting you going on YouTube. And again, for those people who don't have access to my PowerPoints, they will be available to you later, right? So you can actually go through this and try yourself. Okay, number one, you need a Google account, right? Number one, right? You have a question?
Yeah, I do have a question. Sorry. So I'm on YouTube live, and it says 1 hour 4 minutes. So, but you said this is you're just recording this now.
Yeah.
Why is it showing 1 hour 4 minutes?
It's probably 1 minute. I'm not sure. It's usually giving you an estimate of how long it is, right? I'm going to keep going.
Oh, so that's an estimated time. Okay.
So think about it this way. You need a Gmail account. If you don't have a Gmail account, you can't really set up a YouTube channel. So if you don't have one, please get one. It's free. That's step one. So you've got a Gmail account. You create a YouTube account. A YouTube channel is free to set up. As soon as you have one, what you want to do is you want to click on Creator Studio. Creator Studio is what you saw earlier, what I did earlier with YouTube. And I'm going to go back there for a second. Notice that in Creator Studio, I have the ability to see additional settings on YouTube that the average user wouldn't be able to see. They won't see this stuff. They won't see this stuff on my channel. They'll only see this on their channel. So Creator Studio, click on Creator Studio here, like I did. You click on live streaming. There's two options that you're going to get. And the one that you want is, it's going to ask you, of course, to create the channel if you haven't done it already. I'm going fast, see? But I'm going to ask you to watch this video later because I'm not going to go back, right? You might think it's funny, but that's what I do with my students. I don't have time. I talk about concepts. They're required to do the readings. They don't do the readings, right? They're not going to watch the videos ahead of time, but they can because all my videos are pre-recorded from last semester and the semester before that and the semester before that. They can always go back and pre-watch the stuff I'm going to be talking about because for the most part, my outline isn't going to change all that much, right? So you're going to click on live events here. And in order for you to do live events or any kind of live broadcasting, you must verify your account. And verification means you got to give them your phone number or some other means of verification, who you are. Once you're verified, you can fully broadcast live. We're already at step 7, right? It doesn't take that much. It seems like a lot of steps, but they're little micro steps. They're not a lot. It's not a lot of work here, right? You click on this new event like I did. You fill it out like I did earlier when we first started. We fill out this part here, the title, which is really, really important. That's how your students are going to find you, right? Your title, the description. The more descriptive you are, you have 5,000 characters to put in there for your students. You can put as much detail as you like. And the good thing about this is if you can even copy parts of your outline and put it in there so they know what they're watching for that particular day, right? All right, so once you've done that, you click on Go Live Now like you saw. And then afterwards, what it does, if you notice down the bottom here on the right, it says using Google Hangouts on there, you also have the ability or the option to have other encoding options. I never check this. Why would I want to have additional software if YouTube's going to do just fine? You're going to see how good it is afterwards. So really, really, easy to do. You click on Go Live, you press OK, and then you get that whole Tesseract wall of mirrors thing happening when you start off that I showed you earlier, right? So Google Hangout on Air is really a really quick way of transcoding your videos, and it's doing it as we go. So right now, as I'm speaking, as I'm recording my screen, that's all I'm doing. I'm not recording you. I tell the students that too. In the first class, I always say, disclaimer, I'm not going to record you. However, if you do ask a question, I might capture your question because the microphone's right here, right? So the microphone, you notice I got a little fancy mic. We'll talk about that. And there's a reason for this. It captures me. It's not really capturing you. It's not an omnidirectional mic that's going to capture everybody. So that's how we do it. Questions so far, right? So the steps are really simple. We sign up for Google, Gmail account. We sign up for YouTube. We start broadcasting live. There's no encoding software. It doesn't matter what platform you're using. If you really want to, you can do it from your phone. I don't recommend it, right? But you could do it from your phone too, anywhere in the world, and you're broadcasting live. Let's talk about pros and cons, and I'm sure you guys are going to have questions on this one.
With anything with Centennial College with the logo, you need permission before you do it.
Sure. Yes, of course. I've got permission from my chair, right? I don't know, and so far our dean doesn't care. He's good. You might have something else. If you really want to make your YouTube videos private, you can. Again, I don't recommend it. I recommend don't be in stealth mode. Let your students watch the stuff. It's going to be okay. They're still going to come. They still need to attend classes. Still need to take your tests. They still need to hear your stories. They still need to, do your exercises in class. It's not going to replace you. None of this will replace you. If anything, it's going to enhance you. All right, and this is what I found.
Copies of any of these videos on your computer, or are you keeping everything on the cloud?
Everything's on the cloud, right? Because everything changes so often. For me to make copies of myself, it's like I'm going to do the same thing over and over. Look, like I said earlier, we're all comedians in some ways. We have a stand-up routine. We do it over and over again, right? And we get better at it because we've done this over and over again. We're doing the same lecture and the same series of steps that we've done for years, right? Some of us are new to it, but we developed a style of doing things, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, the second time around, even if you've done the same lecture before, second section is always the best time to record. All right, so things like, okay, pros, students can listen and they don't have to watch it. Maybe some students learn that way. They want to listen to you. They don't want to write things down, right? That's their learning style. Or they want to watch your lectures later on. They missed something and you're going to have an exam. You talked about it in the lecture saying, guys, it's going to be on the exam. I record that on the lecture so they can always go back and, oh yeah, he says it's going to be on the exam. And I go through my videos sometimes and I go, I said this, I better put it on the exam. They can catch up. They missed a class. I know. I say it, I got to do it, right? They can catch up. They missed a class. Something happened, right? Snow day. They can still watch it live, right? They can't make it in. They can watch it remotely. If they're unable to make it to class, but they're at home and they got another appointment or something else, it gives them the ability to watch it remotely, right? Some people don't like that. Like some professors like, I would never do that. Why? Give the opportunity for more students to engage, more of a larger audience, different types of learners, right? Some people want to do it from, their garage or whatever, or their home office, whatever. They want to do it different ways, right? Or maybe they have a job that they have to go to. A lot of our students have jobs at the same time they're doing this, right? They don't have time sometimes to come to class. And one of the main reasons they tell me is I'm working, right? Or I'm studying for something else and I just didn't have time to come to lecture today, right? But I professor, it's really important. I want to come to class, but I just couldn't do it. Can you catch me up on the stuff you talked about? No, I can't. I'm not going to reteach my lectures, but I got a video, watch the video. Everything that I do in lectures on video. Cons. Let's talk about bad things. Students may not attend as often, right? It's true, but then again, students may not attend as often even if you don't do this, right? There's no correlation so far that we found between, actually broadcasting live and student attendance. I don't find students don't come to class. If anything, like I said, it's your engagement activities that make them come to class, right? If you don't have quizzes and all that kind of stuff live, then there's not. If you don't pay them, I find if you don't pay them to come to class, they're not going to come to class. If there's not something that's really important, they're not going to come to class. How about this one? Students may start depending on your recordings, and that's why I broadcast and at the same time I record locally, just in case the internet's going to drop, because it does happen. Doesn't matter which classroom you're in, what building, how much high tech they've kind of put into the wiring or the access point, it can drop. All right, so they depend on your videos. If you don't do it, or if you get to do it, then they're going to complain. And I've had that. It's a negative, right? What about board work? They're going to say, a lot of times I want to write on the board or I want to draw a diagram. I'm not going to draw a diagram on the board anymore. I'm going to draw it in something like Paint, right? Or there's other tools we can use. For example, I like using something like Sketchbook Pro. You sketch it. You can use some kind of tablet, and you can sketch live, and it's literally like a whiteboard. And here's an example of earlier in this in the first section that we did, this first broadcast. someone said, hey, can you grab an image and like draw on top of an image? Yeah, I just did this. I just grabbed this from YouTube or from Google, slapped it in, drew a circle around it, and put some text in there. And it's not a big issue to do that. All right, so can I do board work? Absolutely. Am I going to do traditional board work like this? Chances are not, right? Because anything I do outside of my computer will not be captured. And I want to be able to produce the same experience for students that are remote as the ones that are here physically in class, right? So it's a different way of doing things. It's going to change your workflow a little bit. How about engaging students remotely? I have tools for that as well. I mean, what if a student wants to ask a question and they're remote? Can I really respond to that live? Do I have an assistant that can answer their chat? No, right? It's just me. I'm a one-man, or in this case, maybe a one-woman show, right? There is nobody that's going to help you out, right? You don't get an assistant typically to help you do your chat or your video. It's just you, right? And that's why I don't do any post-processing or post-production work whatsoever. It's raw. It goes up raw, which again, you have to watch your colorful language. So how about board work? I usually use something called Concept Board. This is a free resource. There's a free part of it anyway. And it allows you to put together, if you're tools oriented, almost like virtual sticky notes. That's what you can use, right? You have this big board, looks like a canvas, and you slap up virtual sticky notes, and the students can interact with it remotely, as well as physically in class. If they're here in class, they can use their computers to do that. They can use their phones to slap up a sticky note right on Concept Board. So there isn't anything that they can still ask a question. They can still share their code or examples or thoughts or whatever you want with this thing. And you can create as many boards as you like. So Concept Board is one solution. The other thing I like to use these days is Slack. Sorry, did you miss that? No. You can watch the video. But I know it's a comment. So this is my joke. My jokes are bad too. Slack is something that you can use as well. Anyway, like what Slack? Previous Ken was in here. I don't know if you guys know Ken. But he was actually Ken's gonna be famous. He's on YouTube now. So I just mentioned his name. And Ken was talking about, well, so we can Slack off. No, it's not that kind of Slack. Slack is actually a communication tool that companies, small, medium-sized businesses, and even larger businesses are using these days as messaging. It's a cross-platform, so it doesn't depend on the kind of phone you have or your app. You can download an app for both Android and iOS devices. And when I send a broadcast message, as an example, it'll go to everybody who's connected to my Slack channel. Every semester, I create a Slack channel for every one of my classes, even if there's multiple sections, right? And then I can broadcast live to them outside of eCentennial. I do it both in eCentennial and on Slack, right, to make sure that they get it. And just to give you an example of a Slack channel that I currently have live, here's an example of a Slack channel. I have a class that I'm doing, and I put up a video link. You can drag and drop images, because again, we do game development, so there's some story. Talk about story. There's a video that I want them to do this. I put up this little note earlier today saying, hey, good morning, everyone. Please remember to watch this quick video above, as there will be an exercise associated with it on Friday. See you then. Right? Yeah.
Now, does everybody have to get their own Slack account?
No, well, all the students have to sign into your Slack channel. And the beautiful thing about Slack is I don't care what their email address is. I don't care what their cell phone is. They can all communicate with each other as well directly. Through direct channels. It's not a member. They just have to sign up for that particular for your Slack channel. Yes, they register, but you register every single time you create a Slack channel. They have to register.
And now to make your YouTube videos private, everybody needs a Google account in order to access them as well, right?
I believe they have to have access to Google, but you just have to provide your password. That's all they need, right? Again, I don't recommend making them private. It's too much work, right? There's no time for that because you're going to forget. It's going to happen. Right, so just don't bother. Right. So Slack is a communication tool that I use, and it's the ability for us to communicate with each other. And why? Because in the middle of recordings, I might do a recording for an hour, and then I stop, check my Slack channel, and see if there's any questions I have. And then the next video, I'll bring it up, and I'll say, okay, there's a couple questions I got from Slack. Here are some of the answers. So then, even if they're not physically in class and they're remote, I can still communicate with them through Slack. Is it perfect? No, it's always better being class, but it provides them another avenue of engagement. All right, what about, kind of engaging them live? You want to ask them some questions. You want to ask the whole class a question. I might put it up on Slack as a broadcast, but I can also use some free online polling software where you can create live online polls or surveys. It's, again, free to sign up, so polleverywhere.com. If you sign up as an instructor or an educator, I think you can have up to 40 responses per poll, which is for us okay, right? I don't think there's more than 40 students in my class, and there isn't that many in your class at one time, right? I'm just saying, chances are, right?
62.
If there's 62, some of them might not respond, right? So it's okay. And you want to get a sampling of the students anyway. So even if 40 out of 60 respond, that's a good sample, right? So you get them to answer your poll. I usually do polls on the last class. Hey, so remember last class, I asked what the main reasons we use GitHub is as an example. This online software service, platform as a service. And so I asked them this question, what are the 3 reasons? And then I put up, a little short quiz question. It might be the exact same quiz question I tell them that's going to be on the exam, right? So I want them to engage in the question that I'm going to ask. It's an important part of my curriculum maybe, or it's something that I want to cover. I want them to review from last class. Polleverywhere.com, free. So those are those things. So we talked about pros and cons. Could you think about any bad things that would stop you from using this kind of thing yourself? Yeah. What's that?
We're sorry, it doesn't look like you're on a device that we support.
You have a BlackBerry?
Or
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
BlackBerry.
Sorry.
Are you talking about from live streaming perspective?
I'm sorry?
For my live stream?
No, I just typed in Slack to see.
Yeah, I apologize. For most Android and iOS devices, it supports. If you're a BlackBerry person, yes. But you can put it on your desktop. You can put it on tablet computers. You can put it everywhere else, so you can use it. Yeah, I mean, there are other tools for sure. Yeah.
Everything we use needs a separate account or registration. It'd be nice, I think, for everybody, if we could find tools that are incorporated into,
I agree with you.
and I think that's the biggest battle. I mean, I'm pretty tech savvy. I'll try different things. I can find walkarounds for everything. But when you're dealing with, like, you're teaching
Computers.
Yeah, so you're dealing with students that are, they're doing this for a career. So they're going to be much more tech savvy in that aspect than our students are. So for them, I feel like an IT person the first week and a half of class sometimes trying to get them working. And it's a lot of stress, right? Because you want to use the tools, you want to do what's best for the learner.
Yeah.
But it's hard when there's so many different things they have to do or log into. I find, I'm taking an hour, 2 hours sometimes that I'm like forced to help them just do that. Like I'll set up a laptop just to say, okay, let's do this. Let's get everybody set up so you can do home.
So the question is,
That's the challenge.
I gotta receive when I get questions like this. I have to kind of state the question. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. So the question is, there's lots of tools, and it'd be nice if we had only one set of tools or a smaller number of tools we could use instead of all these, a rash number of tools we have to kind of use and get our students to set up. Sometimes setup takes a long time, whether you're an IT student or automotive or aviation, and that's a pain, especially people who are less tech savvy. That's your question, and your statement kind of thing. I agree with you. I think there is a bit of setup involved, right? But it's a workflow. I think what you have to do is when you establish a workflow and if you put it part of your first slides, let's say for your first lecture, so you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, and your step-by-step setup, a lot of it can be right in your first lecture, right? If you share that on eCentennial as an example, or if you share that in some other way with them, at least they have a step-by-step guide they can follow. Now, it's only going to be as good as whatever you put up on the PowerPoints, but you can certainly guide them and help them through it. You're right, though. After the setup is done, it's like we spent a whole class setting up. It doesn't matter if you're in IT or whatever, but once the setup is done, you're running, right? So it's just that first class, really, that's really important, right?
And I don't know if this is in relation to where the world is going. I mean,
Yeah.
we're finding that the best tools are probably coming out directly from Google. And I mean, we're doing a transition into 365 now. Why wouldn't that be a vision that we were looking at, is moving into Google like some of the other school systems are, because a lot of schools are now using Gmail and Google Docs and that sort of thing, and that would be something that would work a little more, or be better tailored to us, because a lot of people, if we have the tools in front of us and it's one account, it's so much easier. It's so much easier to set up and get going, and I think more people would be enticed to try those things, right?
I've been in, I like it.
It's so hard. I love it.
I've been in software development and in IT for about 35 years, right? So I'll tell you that it's never been that way. I would love for it to have some kind of integration, like you're talking about, that has one tool set that we can use. And why do we choose Google, Office 365 over Google. You know, I don't know. I wasn't the decision maker there, but I don't bother with any of that stuff. I don't sit there and say to myself, well, just because the school is using Office 365, I'm going to be locked to that. I'm going to use whatever tool set makes sense for me in my class, right? That's the answer. So if it makes sense to you for you to use Slack and all the tool sets that I've suggested to you, then use those, right? Don't worry about the outside framework, because you know what? It's not perfect. East Centennial is not perfect, right? And other schools, Blackboard is not perfect. Blackboard is a pain in the ass, right? Right? It doesn't matter what kind of learning system you're using or whatever. Don't let yourself be limited. That's my recommendation to you. And then you have to be the ambassador for your students. Once you start putting blocks up and saying, it can't be done, it's hard, guys, I know it sucks. Once you start going down that road, I mean, you're the role model, right? So you have to sell it, whether you believe it or not, right? I'm sorry, but that's how it's going to be. If you're going to sell technology, it's got to be something you believe in. Obviously, it's better. But if you don't believe in it and you got to do it and it's going to add value, and that's what I do sometimes. I kind of get through it. You know, I sit there and I go, okay, this really sucks, but we're going to get through it, right?
Just one last comment.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm taking up a lot of
No.
I think it's-
Comments are the best.
From my perspective, it's much easier to get everybody, students and faculty on board when something is just a little easier than that. There's less things to register for, and you know, like even something that we use Argo in our department, and my first week to set them up it's a lot of work. Right, you gotta, half of the students can't even log into a computer in our labs. You gotta send them to IT, get them to reset their password. And then once they're done, then they need to await a registration email from Argo. And some of them can't even access their Argo emails. Then they gotta go back and they gotta reset the password there. And then once that's done, then I gotta show them how to log in. Some of them don't know how to log in. So I've created a video on how to reset their password.
I love it.
It's a week and a half.
Brother, I feel your pain,
I
brother.
teach 8 weeks.
Right?
I
feel your
teach the
pain.
same group for 8, and I'm lucky to have them for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So, by week 2, I'm hoping that they've started their homework. And it's something that I'm choosing to use.
Start early. That's the answer. So what I would do is prior to week one, if you capture 30% of the class, you send them a note, and 30% of the people actually do what you ask them to do. There's 30% less that have to do it on game day, right? So on game day, you only have to do the other 60 or 90 or 70% that are haven't done it. Start early, and then as long as you record it somewhere where it can be done, then I mean, it's just step by step for them. Hopefully, I know not everyone's savvy, right? But it's okay. We can get them there. It's just a matter of pushing forward. And I do appreciate the fact that you tried, right? Because a lot of people they'll give up. They'll say, I'm going to go to IT. IT is going to set you up, and it's not my job. It's all of our jobs, right? It's all of our jobs to help the student. They're paying for us to be here. That's my opinion anyway, right? So there's a lot of other places that can teach them the stuff that they want to learn, right? The reason why they're here is because of us here at Centennial. Right? So we have to make sure that our product is the best product that we can provide, because one day the machines may replace us. I'm not talking about that as a doom and gloom thing. I mean, it's possible, especially from a coding perspective. They could totally do things differently than I do things. The machine can talk to it and do a PowerPoint presentation and all that kind of stuff. We're very close. Within about 20 years, you might say that's a long time, but it's not long. So let's continue. So best practice, don't record. I usually record for about 60 minutes max, right? Once you record beyond that, even 60 minutes is a long time. I usually try and take a break anywhere between 45 and 60 minutes. And when I take a break, and if I have a 3-hour class, I usually take 3 breaks or 2 breaks, then I stop my recording. I also stop my recording when there's something that I want to talk about that's different. For example, if I'm talking about assignment number 1 or number 2 or number whatever, or if I'm talking about exam prep, then that recording, maybe it's only half an hour, that's going to be just about exam prep. So they can focus in on that one thing. So they don't have to watch the entire video just to get to that part that they want, right? And then I'll do multiple videos. Sometimes I'll have 4, 5, 6 parts, right, to the video. So every time I stop, I got to stop. I got to start, do that whole overhead. YouTube, getting, kind of all that stuff I showed you before, I got to do every single time. So it's multiple times in an hour. And this can be a little bit cumbersome, but it makes it easier for the student. Remember, back in the day, you can only record 50 minutes on YouTube, max. Now you can record as much as you want, as long as you're verified. But let's not overdo it. All right, other thing is Wi-Fi sucks. It's not reliable, right? So wire in as much as you can. If you can wire your laptop, and I've got my stuff wired in right now, it's a good thing, because even though Wi-Fi is everywhere now, the access points get overloaded. Students have multiple devices that they carry with them a lot of times. Everyone is using the same access point as well as you. And you might have sync issues, your connection might drop. And once your connection drops, you're not broadcasting anymore, and you're not delivering you're making it difficult for yourself. So don't do that. The other thing is you need a good mic, and I recommend this Blue Microphone Snowball. You know why? Because it's within range, $58.99 from Amazon, Canadian. That's not really that bad. It's a high quality mic. We use them for podcasting, for video, blogs, all kinds of stuff. And the great thing about this mic is it's crystal clear. Nothing worse than putting together a YouTube channel or a YouTube video and then they can't hear you. That's kind of half the reason why we're doing this, right? So you need to have something that's really good here. Don't try and plug into the device or have your laptops, wireless, or your omnidirectional mic here on your laptop. You're going to get fan noise, a lapel mic, Bluetooth mics, all that kind of stuff. I've tried them all. The best mics, of course, are the ones that are really expensive, the lapel mics that have a little backpack. But those are thousands of dollars. No one's going to pay thousands of dollars for my microphone, right? Not the school, that's for sure, right? So I have to buy it myself. It's reasonable. I do this all the time, and it's an expense that I can afford, right?
That's plugging right in USB.
Yeah, it's USB mic, so it's a good quality. It's digital, and there's no issues.
So if
What's the capture range?
What was that?
What's the capture range of that thing?
It's about right here. Right? Beyond this point, if I talk loudly, it'll still capture me. I can turn up the sensitivity. I might be able to get over there, but here's the thing, right? And this is the disadvantage for if you need to actually walk around the class, you need to find another solution. And because otherwise the students won't hear you. Now for me, I code live, so I'm here, right? So for me to walk around, I do walk around the class sometimes, but if I have to do an exercise, some kind of lab or whatever, I turn it off anyway. I'm not going to record. If they have to do something, I turn it off and I go to them. Or if you're going to show a video, here's the thing you have to do. You can't show a video while you're recording video. Right? That's kind of copyright stuff, right? So you have to watch it. So there's these issues. If I'm going to show a short video from lynda.com, let's say, or if I'm going to show a video from some other provider or from the book provider, whatever, I shut down my YouTube recording and I say, I'll be back in 10 minutes. We're going to watch the video and then I'm going to come back. And I kind of, for people who are remote, I kind of broadcast that on Slack. It's a good time to take a break after the video too, right? So a little bit of a break because video, people can only watch for so long, right? Again, it's about an hour, I would say, in terms of time span and attention. Stuff happens, and sometimes your YouTube broadcast is going to be interrupted. There's nothing you can do about it, even if you do everything you can to stop it. And you might say, like, who cares? But I'm telling you, once you start doing this thing regularly, the students are going to demand it, right? So I use ScreenFlow for the Mac. I recommend that. You can also use that's worth about $100 if you're going to buy it. Now again, I do this all the time, so I can justify the cost, right? It's a one-time thing. They have it usually lasts for about 1.5 years or 2 years, where I don't have to buy anything again. A lot of free updates and so on for every version of Mac OS. You can also use OBS. Now it takes a little bit more finagling configuration, but it's free, right? OBS is free for both Mac and Windows. Camtasia is also some software that you can use out there for Windows primarily. Again, I found more success with ScreenFlow in general if you have a Mac. But then after you've done that, you record locally, you still got to do that old transcode and upload trick, which takes a lot of time and effort. So this is the backup. I would never do this on a regular basis. If I had to do this now, especially with the volume of classes that I do these days and prep and everything else, it's not going to happen. I wouldn't want to do this all the time. It's too much work. That's why I use YouTube.
Okay, now these operating systems like OBS and Camtasia, that's an editing software?
It's a screen recording software, right? So yeah, so it sits on top of Windows. You download it free, as an example, with Windows or on a Mac, if you have a Mac, and you install it. Once you install it, you can screen record. You can record your screen, and then later on, your software, there is transcoding software that's built into it where you can change your screen recording to something that's compatible with YouTube, right? There are a number of steps here that's way out of scope for what we're talking about today, right? And that's why I don't recommend it unless you really have to do it. It may happen to you, and it's going to happen. It's something you have to think about if you're going to adopt something like this. Remember that it's best effort. It's not something that it's not replacing me, right? I'm adding to the content for the class. That's what I'm doing, right? So if someone says, the student says, well, you couldn't do your broadcast. We didn't see your broadcast last week. Well, it didn't work. I try my best. Sorry. You can look at last year's videos, right? Or last semester's videos, right? They're pretty much similar. And that's why I don't edit them. I don't do any post-production work. I don't do any of that stuff. That's what I'm saying. Watch your colorful language because it's going to be on there. Whatever's on there. Could you do it? Could you edit them? Absolutely. If you want to be a film producer, go ahead. I just don't have the time for that. I'm sure most of you don't either. Right? We have prep, we have marking, a lot of stuff we don't like to do. Delivery is great, right? But prep and marking, that kind of sucks, right? Especially the marking part. So if you want to contact me, this is where I'm at. You know, I want to talk about, I'm going to stop recording now for a second. So the people who are watching live, for whoever that is, I'm going to stop recording. And I want to show you a bit of my recordings that I've done already so you can see the quality, okay? So how do I stop recording? I'm going to go over here to Hangouts and click Stop Broadcast.